Welcome to Southwest Desert, where adventure meets the arid beauty of the American Southwest. Join us as we explore the rugged landscapes, uncover hidden historical gems, and dive deep into the rich legends and culture of this iconic region. Subscribe now and hit the bell icon so you don't miss out on our latest desert adventures. Please leave a like or comment. This is very helpful. Let's journey together into the heart of the Southwest Desert. Picture this. It's nearly pitch black on a Kansas prairie in 1860. A young man weighing barely 100 pounds is racing through the darkness at breakneck speed, carrying the hopes of a nation in leather saddlebags. His horse's hooves pound out a rhythm like thunder as they hurtle across 2,000 miles of untamed wilderness. One wrong step could mean death. One moment of hesitation could doom the most ambitious communication project in American history. This is the story of Johnny Frey and the night that changed everything. April 3rd, 1860. St. Joseph, Missouri, a sprawling frontier town clinging to the muddy banks of the Missouri River like a barnacle on a ship's hull. The air crackles with anticipation, and something else entirely. Whiskey. Lots of whiskey. By 5 o'clock that evening, hundreds of rough-hewn frontiersmen had gathered outside the Pony Express office, their faces illuminated by the dancing flames of hastily lit torches. They'd come to witness history, the launch of the first mail service to span the continent in just 10 days. But there was a problem. The train carrying the precious Eastern mail was over 2 hours late. What do you do when you're a thirsty crowd of frontier folk with time to kill and several saloons within stumbling distance? Well, you drink. And with each passing hour, with each round of drinks, the crowd grew wilder, louder, more unruly. At the center of this chaos stood Mayor Jeff Thompson, a man who never met a speech he couldn't stretch or a crowd he couldn't work into a frenzy. As the noise of the crowd swelled, Thompson's voice rose to match it, a bull-like bellow that could be heard 3 blocks away. He introduced the business partners behind this mad venture, Russell and Majors, 2 men crazy enough to think they could move mail across hostile territory faster than anyone thought possible. Thompson's arms windmilled through the air as his voice reached fever pitch. "The mail must go through," he roared to the intoxicated crowd. Hurled by flesh and blood across 2,000 miles of desolate space, neither storms, fatigue, darkness, mountains, nor Indians, burning sand or snow, must stop these precious bags. The crowd erupted, but here's where the story takes its first unexpected turn. Just as Thompson reached his crescendo, the delayed train finally chugged into the station. Through the chaos and torch smoke, a figure emerged. Bill Richardson, a hostler from the local livery stable mounted on a magnificent bay mare. The crowd assumed he was their hero, their first rider. A newspaper reporter, desperate to scoop his competitors, rushed back to his office and breathlessly wrote the thrilling account of Bill's grand departure. There was just one problem. Bill Richardson wasn't the first Pony Express rider. The real rider was a slip of a farm boy from Wathena, Kansas, who went by the name Johnny Frey. At barely 100 pounds soaking wet, Johnny looked more like he should be mucking stalls than making history. But appearances, as they say, can be deceiving. Johnny Frey was a horseman in the truest sense of the word. His reputation as a race rider was legendary throughout the Missouri Territory. More than that, he was a showman who understood that sometimes the presentation matters as much as the performance. When Johnny finally appeared through the smoky chaos, he was a sight to behold. His bright red flannel shirt and blue trousers were nearly hidden beneath a silver-spangled jacket that caught the torchlight like captured lightning. Bat-wing chaps adorned his legs, twin six-shooters hung from his hips, and a rifle was slung across his back alongside a brass horn. Silver spurs jangled at the heels of his fancy Spanish boots with every step. His mount was equally impressive. Sylph, a Kentucky thoroughbred mare with a coat like burnished copper, pawed the ground nervously as Mr. Russell himself wrapped the mail packets in waterproof silk and secured them in the 4 leather pockets of the mochila, the special saddle cover that would carry America's correspondence across the continent. At exactly 7:15 p.m., Mayor Thompson fired a ceremonial cannon that echoed across the Missouri River like a crack of doom. The race for San Francisco was officially on. What happened next would have made a circus performer jealous. Johnny Frey vaulted into his saddle without so much as touching a stirrup. Sylph reared to her full height, front hooves pawing the air, before bursting through the cheering crowd like a thunderbolt. Down Jewel Street they charged, heading for the ferry that would carry them across the Missouri to Kansas and into legend. But Johnny Frey was no mere showboat. Beneath all the flash and pageantry beat the heart of a practical man who understood that the real test lay ahead in the darkness beyond the river. The moment Sylph's hooves touched the ferry deck, Johnny began stripping away the elaborate trappings. Off came the heavy silver-studded saddle, replaced by the lightweight Pony Express version. Into a closet went the rifle, the fancy jacket, everything that added unnecessary weight. When they reached the Kansas shore, Johnny Frey had transformed from frontier dandy to lean racing machine. Buckskin shirt, leather breeches, moccasins, his horn, and just a pair of revolvers tucked under his belt. The ferry had barely kissed the Elwood landing when Johnny leaped Sylph ashore and disappeared into the swallowing darkness. The Missouri Valley stretched before them, heavily wooded and black as the inside of a coffin. But Johnny knew these trails the way a river pilot knows every sandbar and snag. He'd ridden these paths since boyhood, following routes carved by deer and wolves long before the first settlers arrived. Into the timber they plunged, where the darkness closed around them like a living thing. No human eye could penetrate that blackness, but horses possess night vision far superior to their riders. Sylph threaded her way along the winding trail with supernatural precision while Johnny read every twist and turn through the rhythm of her movement beneath him. When low branches threatened to sweep him from the saddle, he flattened himself against Sylph's neck. On the straightaways, he urged her into a pace that would have terrified a lesser horseman. They had lost over 2 hours to the delayed train, and Johnny was determined to make up every minute of it. For the first 10 miles he drove the mare relentlessly, then ran his hand along her neck, feeling for the pulse in the great artery. Strong and steady, she could take more. But by the time they were 3 miles out from Cold Springs Ranch, Johnny felt something different in Sylph's stride. Was it a stumble? A falter? His hand slipped beneath her flying mane, searching for the telltale nerve twitch that would signal approaching exhaustion. Nothing. But her breathing was labored now, and Johnny knew her lungs must be burning like forge bellows. So he did what horsemen have done since time immemorial. He talked to her. Stretched out along her neck with his face close to her unseen ears, Johnny began a soft litany in rhythm with her hoofbeats. "That's my girl, Sylphie. That's my pet. We'll show them California boys. We'll learn them what kind of horsehair makes fiddle music." The light from Cold Springs Ranch twinkled across the prairie like a fallen star. Johnny reached for his horn and blew 3 sharp blasts, the signal for the station keeper to have a fresh horse saddled and ready. The keeper had 3 beautiful daughters, and Johnny Frey never could resist showing off for pretty girls. A 1/4 mile out, he called on Sylph for her final sprint. With spurs barely touching her flanks and his mouth close to her pinned-back ears, he whispered, "Now, girl, now let them hear the snare drum." Sylph responded like the champion she was. Pouring out the last reserves of her strength, she quickened her pace until the sound of her hooves rolled across the prairie like thunder given rhythm. She slid to a stop where the cheering keeper and his daughters waited with the relay horse, her sides heaving, her noble head hung low with exhaustion. Johnny's feet hit the ground running. He snatched up the mochila, slapped Sylph's shoulder with an affectionate, "Good horse," and leaped aboard the waiting pony in one fluid motion. Westward he raced, across rolling prairie hills dotted with the occasional glimmer of light from some lonely homesteader's sod house. The fresh mount was a sturdy Morgan, but even this hardy breed was winded and staggering by the time they reached Kennecook, 44 miles from St. Joseph. The route ahead followed the old military road, easier on the horses but dangerous for the rider as it cut across the Kickapoo Indian Reservation. Changing horses at Granada and Log Chain, Johnny Frey covered those final 36 miles to Seneca, Kansas, in less than 2.5 hours. At 1:40 on the morning of April 4th, he galloped his spent and dripping horse into a cheering crowd at the Seneca home station. In almost complete darkness, this slight farm boy from Kansas had ridden 80 miles in 6 hours and 25 minutes, nearly 3 times faster than California mail had ever been carried before. While Johnny Frey was making history one thundering hoofbeat at a time, Jim Randall and his Palomino pony were still enjoying a leisurely boat ride up the Sacramento River aboard the steamer Antelope. The age of the Pony Express had begun, launched by courage, horsemanship, and one young man's determination to prove that neither darkness nor distance could stop the American spirit. In that single-night ride, Johnny Frey didn't just deliver the mail. He delivered a promise that would echo across the frontier for generations to come. The mail had gone through. If you would like to see a lost gold story by where I grew up, click on the link in the description. Join my Patreon community and discover my art print products on my website in the links provided in my description and link above. Also, if you would like a particular image from my videos, give the timestamp for image, and I will upload it to my website and Patreon. Thank you for joining your desert frontiersman Alan for another Southwest story. Check out my large catalog of Southwest videos and playlists on historical tales, legends, lost gold stories, and adult bedtime stories. If you like a certain image from my videos, tell me in comments and give timestamp. Happy trails. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe for more great content. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.